Hi, I'm Danny from Rent a Bike Vietnam, and this is one of our XR150s, one of our most popular short-term rentals. People generally rent this bike to take a short-term trip, say 7 to 10 days, around the north of Vietnam, making a loop, or sometimes they will go Hanoi to Da Nang or Da Nang to Saigon, for a one-way rental. Before we get started, if you like the content here, can you share, can you comment? We'll respond to your comment, and liking and sharing, you know, it helps the algorithm. Now, before I send someone out on one of these bikes, I tell them a lot of stuff, as much as they want to know about the bikes, about the routes, all kinds of things. But there are three main things that I think it's quite important that everyone should know. Some of you will know this already, but there's plenty of you that have been surprised when I tell you. The first thing is that on the dash here, there's no fuel gauge, so you've got no way of knowing how much fuel you've got in the tank there. The second thing is that the petrol cap here is spring-loaded, so you've got to be careful when you're taking the key out. And the third is that down in the carburetor, under here, you've got a choke, which is really useful for starting in cold weather. The first thing about there being no fuel gauge, no indication there, you could rock the tank while you're driving and you'll hear some fuel gushing around. But generally, if you fill up once a day, you're not going to run out. There's 12 litres of fuel. You'll do over 300 kilometres on that. That's a really long day here in Vietnam. If you don't fill up every day, then you might drive along and the bike starts to splutter and be kind of jerky. And what you can do then is you can flip down here to the fuel lock and you'll turn her a full 180 degrees. When you turn her a full 180, you go on to the reserve tank. The reserve tank has got 2 litres in it. That's enough to get you to the nearest petrol station. Then you can fill up. You've got to remember though, you have to flick this switch back to the upright position. That's on, and then that's on the main tank. The second thing is that this petrol cap is spring-loaded. So when you're taking your key out, you don't want to touch it. You'll replace the petrol cap like this, and then don't touch the key. Use your thumbs to just push down. The key will spin and then you can take it out. If you try and twist the key, you could end up breaking it, and then a whole world of pain will ensue. The third thing is that there's a choke. So in the morning, sometimes at altitude, sometimes when it's cold, then the bike might be a little bit hard to start. The oil's a little bit thicker, harder work for the engine to turn over. You're going to reach in here, down to the carburetor. There's a black lever there. All the way down is off, and then you've got 2 settings, a bit of extra fuel and then a lot of extra fuel. So you'll flip her up, all the way up. 1, 2, start the bike, give her a few revs, let her warm up a little bit, and then you'd move her down to position 1, hope that she still runs, maybe let her warm up a little bit, move her down to position 0, completely off, and that's where you want to be before you drive away. If you drive away with the choke on, 1, you're going to use a lot of fuel, and 2, you could have problems with acceleration, and that then might lead to further problems on the road. So if we recap, then we've got these 3 things that I really insist on telling people. There's no fuel gauge, but you can use the reserve. Be careful when you're taking the key out of the petrol cap. And remember, there's a choke to help you start if it's cold or up at altitude. So these are what I think are probably the 3 most important things that I like to tell my riders before they go off on their trips. If you think there's something more important or equally important, leave it in the comments. We can discuss that. We can share all this information with the aim of building a community around people that are riding in Vietnam or all over the world, in fact, and sharing information, making everyone's ride a better ride. And if you need a bike for rental, for tour in Vietnam, then rent a bike Vietnam. Talk to people you can trust.